Okay, we're just doing a quick sound check. Can somebody please make a comment in the chat box if they can hear me okay? Fine. Thank you. Okay, let's just have a look. Okay, still got people signing on, so we'll make a start in about 1 minute. Okie dokie, so you should see what looks like a pyramid of screens in front of you now. Sharing my screen with you, and we'll get cracking. I've got the slides open up here and we'll get straight into it. I have changed the content around than what we would normally do on these an events such as this. Actually, I might just open it here. And we've got some new content for you, which really covers some of the latest tips and strategies and the ways that we would generate leads and grow businesses via LinkedIn. For those of you that have come across me before, I won't bore you with my background, but essentially we run LinkedIn marketing campaigns across a variety of different platforms. And we have tried and tested a variety of different templates and strategies and methods of finding, connecting, and engaging target audiences. And we have systems that can generate the likes of 5,000 prospects, become industry leaders, and boost your sales revenue by 300 to 1,000%. What we're noticing is LinkedIn is becoming more and more popular at the moment in terms of membership usage. The most recent statistic released directly from LinkedIn, which they told me over the telephone a few weeks ago, was that 7.2 million members are on the platform in Australia alone. So there's about 330 odd million globally, and they're heading for 1 billion by 2020, according to the CEO. So one of the biggest social media websites, without a doubt, and no doubt we're all aware that it's the largest big business networking website. Which that's really why I've decided to specialize in there. My background's in digital marketing for 12, 13 years, and I decided to specialize in LinkedIn really because the market was crying out for it and needed it. So it's 2014 and 99% of people still market like it's 2004. I'm wondering if anyone out there can relate to this comment. It's amazing to me that people are still using the old methods of marketing, and even, email marketing, search engine optimization, Google advertising. These kind of things are on the decline. And if that's where you're investing your resources, then it could be a cause for concern. So I'm fascinated by how we get stuck as marketers. And I say this because 12 years ago, I was able to take a website to the first page of Google, and we were generating about 10 leads a day for a real estate company. And these days, you can't manipulate the search engine as easily. We moved on to Google advertising, and as the marketing industry has evolved, so have I, and I've tried to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak. And I can tell you right now that the biggest opportunity in business-to-business marketing is on LinkedIn and social networking. Never before have we seen a form of marketing where we can build relationships with individuals rather than with companies. And it's no longer the individual that's or the company that's telling their own story. More so, it's their network. So if a good LinkedIn profile will actually have a lot of their clients, business partners, and associates doing the selling via recommendations and endorsements. Peter Drucker, he always said that there's only two key areas that you need to master in business to be successful. One of them is innovation, and one of them is marketing. And in order to stay ahead of the curve, you've got to be doing something different to what everyone else is doing. There's no point going out and all trying to get your website to the top of Google, because it just won't be as effective. You can pull a lot of resources into it, and at the end of the day, it's not going to work, and there's too much competition. But also what's happening with Google is, because social media sites have got so much activity on them, is that it's actually becoming a search engine for social media websites. And like, you'll know if you've ever Googled your name, that generally the first thing that shows up is a social media site, and most likely LinkedIn. So these days, marketers have to be a storyteller, and no different for business owners who are doing their own marketing. So what I want to discuss with you today is how you can leverage technology to tell that story better and not have it suck all of your money, resources, and time out of your day. So my number one goal today is to add as much value as possible. I do this because I believe in the business practice of adding value to people in my network, my sphere, and I find that it comes back in numerous ways. And I'd encourage you all to look at it as very much the same when you're telling your stories online, and to try and provide value to your customers. Connect with what their frustrations might be, and learn about your customers, and bring them ideas and concepts that will help them on their journey and their path to success. So first of all, you need to get your attention of your clients. And no different to the picture of Times Square, New York here, the digital environment is littered with advertising and lots of different things that can, shiny objects that can take people's distraction away from what they're doing. You want to try and cut that aside and do something a little bit different, and which is exciting, because it actually means you don't have to spend money on things like Google advertising, cost per click, cost per acquisition, that kind of thing. So if you come to it with a new energy and be, just charged to basically try things a bit differently, you'll find that it will get effective results. Now, the market is completely changing. Like this little fella here, growing up, learning on an iPad, over 50% of people using LinkedIn are now doing so on a mobile device. So you can imagine the implications that that's going to have to the way you post content, the way you engage with people. No longer is a long sales letter going to be effective. If you're messaging a prospect on LinkedIn, you want to keep it short, succinct, and be able to just convert it into a telephone call as quickly as possible, or even a meeting. If they're on their phone, they'll be able to click to call. So make sure that you have a phone number in there, and make sure that it is designed so it's clickable. So some things to be mindful of. So before we get down to the strategy, it's important just to identify what, I guess, not to do. So it can be quite confusing out there. I know if any of you have ever spoken to 3 or 4 marketing consultants to try and nail down a strategy, all the different things that have come across your desk. And the reason being is the education system across the world, really, but more so in Australia, is not designed to educate the marketing graduates on digital marketing. A lot of the content that they get, I've heard, is from Google itself, which lends itself towards content that has been online for 1 or 2 years. So by the time the graduates are coming into the workforce, they're sort of 6-7 years behind, not to mention all of the people that start businesses without a marketing degree. So really, the only people that are qualified to give advice in marketing are the ones that are actually practicing what they preach, and testing and measuring what they're doing. So I'd definitely encourage you to make sure that you find out any marketing provider that you're talking to, exactly what they're doing in the marketplace, because if they're not putting their own money into it, then the chances are they probably don't know what they're doing. This is a this is a graphic of all of the different ways that we can market, and so often I find that people come and say, "Hey, what about this platform? It's great, does this, and that." And really, you can divert your strategy into all different directions and dilute it while doing so. So where's the return on investment? So I'm a big believer in social media, as you would all know, and What I'm not a believer in, though, is if you put some comments and expecting that that's going to be a good indication as to whether or not your campaigns are successful. So I want to start a campaign with direct return on investment. How many leads have we got generated? What's the cost per lead? What's the quality of the lead like? And then once we've done that, then we can look at doing things like posting content, getting likes and comments and things like that to leverage that return on investment. But until we've actually got some figures coming in, I don't want to be spreading our resources too thin. So the reason that I think that LinkedIn, because the professionals on the planet are actually on the platform, and that's only set to increase. I would say that's about 95% of the white collar workforce in this country at the moment are on LinkedIn, and they're all wondering, much the same as a lot of you are, no doubt, how to use it effectively to grow their business. So what we want to do is take advantage of that and help others connect and engage. We want to add value. The businesses that will thrive are the ones that really are adding value to their network and are good at what they do. So B2B buyers in particular will use social media in many ways to make a purchase decision. There's a big shift towards team buying these days. There's a good example is a client who wanted to target a quite prestigious travel company online and had to target 7 or 8 key decision makers in order to get like a really outstanding result. And whereas before it might be 1 or 2 people involved. So you can do that quite effectively through social media. And a lot of it's subtle. Like, if you prompt someone with a message once, but then you're posting content and things like that, and then accept a connection request, it's almost this, back and forth going on where they're actually accepting the fact that you're in their network now and you do have a relationship. And a lot of this can be automated or at least outsourced. 74% use LinkedIn as a guide when you're making purchasing decisions, and the buyers do lead the way. What's actually happening on LinkedIn now is that, like, if let's say, for example, I'm looking for an accountant, what I'll actually do is hop onto LinkedIn and search for who I know is in my network that's already, whether or not somebody I want to do business with. So at this point, I might actually hop on to LinkedIn. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat box to see if there's any questions coming through. Oh, yeah, good, okay. All right, so I'm going to bring up LinkedIn because it's quite fun to do some live stuff in these events. And this is my LinkedIn profile. And what I might actually do is click on the advanced search feature here. A lot of people don't actually know this exists. And this is the most powerful way of actually going about generating in a certain industry. So you can see, like, accounting would be a good example, what their title might be. So you might click director, for example, and then whether they're current or past, and then you would look at locations. Obviously, Australia, postal code might be 3000, for example. And then once you've done that, you can do a quick search, and you'll see that I've got 2,500 people that are within my network that are directors of accountancy firms. So what we actually do is go through, and if I'm not connected with them, connect with them. Otherwise, send them a message and find out a bit more about their services. So it does work both ways, from buyer's point of view, but also from a business's point of view. By the way, if anybody's having any technical difficulties, please drop a note in the chat box. Holly is looking after the chat box, so if any questions pop into there, we will try to get to them at the end. Otherwise, we'll be following them up by a phone call, but we will definitely get to all of your questions, so feel free to drop them in the chat box there. In terms of most customers to B2B, like, this is released by HubSpot. They've been quite instrumental in releasing facts and figures about how effective social media is. Again, LinkedIn most effective. So what's your objective? Because, like, I wouldn't want you to start with doing everything. And these are some of the services and things that we would incorporate as part of a campaign. And if you look at the list there, like if we were to look at thought leadership, for example, which is really positioning you as an industry leader, posting content, maybe becoming like a speaker and all that kind of stuff, and you did all that before you even started your lead generation or even you're writing your profile, it would be a bit counterintuitive. So you want to make sure you get them in the right order. So look at building your profile, then look at lead generation, focus on social proof. If you're not sure what social proof is, it's just really evidence that you are present in the marketplace and good at what you do. It's no different to the likes of Urban Spoon, where you get a 5-star rating for a restaurant and people using that as indications as to whether or not it's a good place to go to eat. Same as TripAdvisor, and that's really why Facebook and LinkedIn have become so popular in business. It's because people want to know what your customers are saying, not just what you have to say about your brand. So in a perfect world, how many leads would you like per month? If a lot of people say to me that they'd like 20 leads per month to start with, and then they sort of scale up once they see the strategy works in any industries. Do you want to move into another industry? If so, that you should be targeting, like, to move your network in that direction. If you want to take your career in a different direction, who would be the ideal employees and things like that. That you're required, what would you do ideally? Would it be to move into a higher value transaction size, or nothing that's impossible on LinkedIn? We find that the strategies are just as effective targeting CEOs of banks as they are as targeting like chippies and tradies and that kind of thing. This is one of the case studies we posted on LinkedIn recently from a client of ours, and We Are Video. We are actually a client of theirs as well. They did all of our corporate videos, but within the first 30 days, they got over 100 leads and doubled their sales revenue. And this sort of campaign is something that we only guarantee a minimum amount of leads of around 20. So that was quite an outstanding result. And all they did was found people who ran financial services companies, generally between 10 to 50 employees, and we would actually connect with them. And then once they accepted the connection request, we would send them a message that said something along the lines of, hi, so-and-so, I've had a look at your LinkedIn profile, really interested in learning more about what you do, because I think there could be some synergies with what we do at We Are Video. We've had some good results working with financial services companies in the past. Would you be free for a chat sometime next week? So very personalized, quite brief, succinct. It doesn't actually explain too much of a sales pitch. So very different to what most sales letters would be structured as. And of course, if they click on the link to the person's profile, it wasn't actually Danny in this case, it was Christian, the boss. But then you can see all of the details there on the LinkedIn profile, and that was optimized to convert well. So this is the sort of thing that we're doing across the country for various clients with lead generation strategies on LinkedIn. And it's much like telemarketing, only we don't use telephones, we're using social media. So I'm going to give you some key outcomes because, as I said, I want to deliver some value. So the first thing that you need to do before you do anything and build your network or engage is make sure that you identify what your network is worth. So as you say, your network is your net worth. And your personal brand really is your point of difference in the marketplace. And it's not just your company brand, it's also your personal brand, because let's not forget it's people-to-people marketing. For those of you that are into hip hop, this is Jay-Z, and he says, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." It really does ring true, because you are your business, and even if you are working for somebody else, your network is a real big social asset for where you take it in the future. So if you can build your digital asset up now, where you're building this social database on LinkedIn, it really is going to be quite effective. So you start looking at at your personal branding as a business and building your network and building your reputation and that kind of thing. I don't believe that in a year or 18 months time it'll be as easy to connect with people on LinkedIn without having to pay for it or with some limitations. The trend that we're seeing is now they're limiting the number of searches you can do. You have to upgrade before you can, view over 100 profiles, all this kind of stuff. So while we can connect with people quite easily, I'd suggest doing it. Okay, so aim for 100% profile completeness. This is pretty self-explanatory. A couple of people are asking in the chat box if I will provide the slides afterwards. This webinar will be recorded, so you will be able to access the recording and revisit some of these key points. Build your profile with customer-centric view. So word things in the way of that they describe the benefits to the customer. Add rich content, videos. Again, I'd suggest talking to a company like We Are Video or something like that to get some video content if you haven't got some already. Okay, I know I'm firing through it, guys. We're just limited a bit with time, and I want to make sure you get as much value as possible. So you always go back to the recording if need be. But step 2, so build your network. Use that advanced search feature, which I just showed you then. And you'll be able to really hone in on your target audience and get a very specific search result. And you want to focus on building relationships. It's not about just smashing people with calls to action. It doesn't work. You want to be adding value, doing things like sending them information that might help their business. And then the occasional call to action's fine. I mean, it's a bit like playing the drums, and the call to action is the cymbal. If you keep bashing the cymbal all day long, it's not going to sound very good. But if you've got a kick and a snare and a hi-hat, so build a reputation as an industry leader and build relationships. So it doesn't actually matter to me, how many connections you have. I'd much rather have a network of 300 or 400 people that I've got a really close relationship with than 20,000 people who barely know me from a bar of soap. Okay, so this is a 3-step strategy, and we can measure the progress along the way. So when you find people in your target demographic, you send them customized connection requests, you personalize it a bit, explain why you want to connect, then you send targeted invitations to join your network, and you can measure the number of people that accept. You might get 50%, you might get 70%, might only get 10%, in which case probably something that needs to be updated on your profile. And then you engage number of leads. So going back to that number that you wrote down before, if you are in this for lead generation, if you write down 20 leads, let's assume that, conservatively, you only get a 10% conversion rate from connect to engage. That means that it's pretty safe to assume that you need to have 200 new connections per month in order to achieve that result. And if you're, let's say, out of all of the connection requests you send, which might sound like a lot, but it's only really 10 a day. So if you are able to spend 20 minutes on LinkedIn per day, you can achieve the 20 lead outcome that you're after. Just want to reiterate the way that LinkedIn works in terms of your network. So obviously that's you up in the top left-hand corner, and your first are then visible to you in the search results, and you're visible to them. And you can see some of the third degree connections depending on what membership you have with LinkedIn. And another very fast way to get exposure to people is by joining groups, because if you join a group, you will to get access to a target market. Let's say if you wanted to contact media professionals, would be to join the media professionals group as a first stop, and then you should have thousands of people that you can have access to. And you can see that as you build your network in a particular niche, that the benefits just snowball. Okay, so successful marketers on social media never forget the #1 rule. So I bet you all know what this is already. It's not about you. So essentially, we have to get into the minds of the customer. And if you're interrupting somebody with a message on LinkedIn, the last thing you want to do is say, "Hey, I'm a marketing professional. We're doing this websites this month. Mobile sites are at discount. Blah 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 blah. We get people to the #1 on Google, etc., etc., etc." As we all know, that when we get these messages, we tend to ignore them. So what you want to focus on doing is not actually talking about yourself, and look at things that you might be able to mention about your target audience's profile that you may have in common. Okay, it's difficult to see that. Connections. So if you have 4 or 5 connections in common, you could say, hey, and if I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I'm quite interested in what you do. Let's connect. Groups, if you're a member of the same group, it's about 65% more chance that they will engage with you on LinkedIn. Companies that you're following. Education, people that went to the same university, school as you, company followers, interests. I mean, even if you mentioned that, you noticed that they went to rock climbing and whatever it is, like these are ways of building rapport, no different to the traditional sales. Leadership, step 4. Okay, so these statistics are what happens when a ad on LinkedIn drives traffic to a landing page. So somebody sees an ad on, say, Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, clicks on it, goes through to a one-page website with a call to action, and then that website will convert at these percentages here. So visitors to inquiry, and that just includes web form inquiries, not telephones. So albeit that the overall conversion rates are quite low, LinkedIn is about 277% higher than Facebook. So it's definitely the most effective, and we wouldn't encourage you to drive traffic to a landing page. We would actually do it on LinkedIn, and that's where you start to see 10 to 35% conversion. These are some of the guys that are doing this thought leadership stuff, and Richard Branson's probably one of the top guys. He gets the most engagement on his posts. Embracing social media isn't just a bit of fun, it's a vital way to communicate, keep your ear to the ground, and improve your business. If you find a few of these thought leaders that you quite enjoy following and you think your clients might as well, it's actually a lot easier to share their content rather than go creating your own all the time. Again, the CEO of ANZ, CEO of Nike. So you can see that all the major players are starting to embrace social media and start to publish content and start to display their personal brand, whereas before it might have been quite shut off. Okay, so if you were only spend 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, these are some of the things that I'd suggest that you'd want to be doing. Finding content to share, sending connect requests to people that may have looked at your profile, for example, or people that are in your demographic. Look at who liked or commented on posts, send connection requests to people who commented, send intro message to all new connections. So what I mean by that is when somebody so if I go back to LinkedIn and I go to connections, organize your contacts by most recent ones. So if you select new, it actually will show you most recent connection. Recently joined my network, and so like I could send this guy a message, for example, Lachlan Bailey. Hi Lachlan, thank you for connecting. Here's some more info about what we do, et cetera, et cetera. And I find that that's quite an effective way of actually just starting the conversation, quite a friendly introduction. So I'd be encouraging you all to look at doing that. And yeah, you don't want to have the conversation on LinkedIn, you want to drag it off as soon as you can. Endorse and recommend others. So really, the secret here is to give, not to focus on getting, and you'll find that people tend to reciprocate. Respond to messages, obviously, and then post to your network. Okay. So in order to wind up, I've got the.com.au. Got over 24 coaching videos in there. We're offering the first 2 modules free. So there's 12 modules altogether. We've got over 12 hours of live training. I believe this is the only online training program for LinkedIn in Australia at the moment. Real life case studies. We put a lot of effort into just providing real life, campaigns and things like that, formulas, scripts, etc., etc. So check that out if you're interested in that. We'll be sending out this information after the webinar as well. So in terms of our other services, we offer a package of 3 one-on-one coaching sessions for $9.90. The LinkedIn Insider membership, once you get through the first 2 training modules, $297. We do profile optimizations where we write them profiles following a 22-step formula from $490, and the lead generation is priced on application. So just for the people on the webinar, we're offering a LinkedIn Accelerator package, which includes 3 coaching sessions, full membership to LinkedIn Insider, profile optimization checklist with those 22 steps I mentioned, a personal branding workbook, and the Words That Work message scripts, which are the actual message. And today that's only $490. If anybody wants to take that up, that's over about 3.5K in value. More than welcome to do so. And so in order to do that, please take advantage of the special offer by emailing myself with subject webinar offer, and we'll get back in touch with you. So just make sure you include your phone number in there so I can give you a quick buzz this afternoon. And for those of you that would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're more than welcome to. That's my LinkedIn address there, linkedin.com/in/Nathaniel Bibby. So I'm always available to help out. If you would like to send me any questions or would like me to have a look at your profile, I generally would get back to those sort of things within 7 days, but generally much quicker depending on how much we have on and so on. So I hope that's helped to give you a bit of an overview on what's possible on LinkedIn. And I'm just going to stop the screen share now. I'm just going to have a quick look at okay, a couple of people have got some technical difficulties. Yes, we will be recording it. There's a mixed bag. Most you can send. I am not sure exactly what limit you're referring to, but I do know there is limitations if you are reported by people as not sending connection requests to people you don't know. So the idea is to customize the connection request so that say we've got something in common, whether it's a group or something you've noticed on their profile, and that way you do actually get a much higher conversion rate. If you do get to the point where LinkedIn's restricted you and you have to enter somebody's email address, then I would look at potentially if you get to that point, you can do that a couple of times with my account. So I'd contact them. For those of you that have had a recording, and we'll double check that it's all recorded correctly prior to sending that out. So don't stress, and feel free to reply back to that with any further questions that you may have. So thank you all for attending. I do appreciate your time. I know you're all busy, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day.